describe yourself?
Dude, what the fuck, dude? You can't ask me that shit. Oh, God. Oh, dude, I fucking hate this question. Uh, no. I wish I did. I guess the best way for me to think about that is like a kid isn't worried about what comes next, you know? A kid is just like having a blast and not worried about tomorrow. And for me, I'm just at a point in my life where next really matters to me. Like I've put myself in this place where I've always been a harsh critic of myself, and I just always really want to be just the best person I can be, and so I think about that a lot, and I don't think kids do that. Does it make me sad? I grew up in a town called Kensington, New Hampshire, which was a small little rural town, just like any other, with my 3 other siblings and my 2 parents. We were super close. I was right down the road from my best friends. And man, the most entertaining things I can think of that we did were like grabbing our bikes and stealing change from our parents and going to stock up on Sour Patch watermelons from the local grocery. We were smacking each other with sticks in the woods. We had this little hill in front of my driveway, and we used to take our longboards and we used to just bomb down it as hard as we could, which ended well sometimes. In hindsight, I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, it seemed like a lot of the times when you're growing up in a town like that, it's always how do you get out? How do you have an experience other than what feels like such an encapsulated bubble? And in hindsight now, it's like my happy place. I go there whenever I can. I was just overwhelmingly driven by this ambiguous goal that I had. I started to feel like if I did one thing, then that would lead to the next, and the next, and the next. And then if I was able to calculate and make these decisions along the road, then I would be able to reach that goal, which was success or happiness or one of these big, bold, brash words that no one really knows what they mean. But I was seeking that. I had this one school called Colgate University, and I was talking to the coach. I was hoping to get recruited. I was coming out of school with awesome grades, and I had this like verbal assurance from him that I was getting like recruited and I was going to get in. I really wanted to be that guy that came in senior year fall, that had his hoodie on with his university and knew exactly where he was going. But it turned out I was the opposite of that kid. I ended up getting rejected from Colgate, and it was the first realization that I couldn't have things exactly the way I'd planned, and that you can't necessarily perfectly calculate the way that your future is going to unfold. But I remembered I went through the options, and a lot of other schools fell through too. I felt like I was like getting dragged through the mud. But I ended up finding this school called Santa Clara University, which was the only school I applied to on the West Coast. They had a rowing program there, and I remember kind of just being like, you know what, fuck it. I was like, none of this shit is going my way. I'm totally out of luck with all these other places. All these things that I thought were going to happen are no longer happening. What do I do? And the only thing I could do was kind of like start fresh. I was like, I'm just going to move out to California, the opposite side of the country. I'm going to drop swimming. I'm going to pick up rowing. And I'm just going to like kind of try to start over. And so that's what I ended up doing. So I was like, I guess my dad works in business finance. Maybe I'd apply for the business school. And so I ended up submitting my application, feeling pretty good, and I got rejected. It was like this like, I was just getting hit after hit after hit. It was like, didn't get in Colgate, rejected from the business school. I was like, these things are just gonna keep blowing up in my face. Like, I have to find like a workaround. So I was like, I guess if the business school's not gonna take me, I have to find some other way to get this done. So I still remember the exact class I was in. It was Psychology 1. The professor was really, really bad. He was like a first year professor. I think he got dropped after our class, actually. I feel sorry for him. He was trying. But I remember that goes into the fact that I was sitting in the back of the class and not paying attention on my laptop, like scrolling through Facebook. and I see this like sidebar ad for a company called Bird Dogs. And I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. What is that? They have like this punchy, like funny line on the side next to a picture of shorts. I clicked into it, started browsing around the website. I was like, wow, this looks really cool. So I remember I shot an email to the helpline, not knowing at that time that on the other end of that helpline was just one guy in his apartment, like starting this new company completely solo.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of will and taste.
I'd set up a college ambassador program, and we'd had a couple hits on online for some PR outlets that had written about us. And from that, we kind of we were like on life support, right? And we had, I think about 20 ambassadors or so that had sold these shorts on their campuses. They'd basically been like the first guys that had seen the brand. And all they had seen of the brand was these emails, the Weekly Bird we'd written out, and the website. And Sam was actually in that group of guys.
Originally, everyone just wrote me off, but then I got one guy to buy a pair, and then all of a sudden I had reinforcements, and it was just like this tumble effect.
He was one of the top ambassadors, and we'd interviewed the top three, and Sam was the clear winner from that to bring him on board.
And I didn't think he really expected me to take it as seriously as I did.
So before Sam came on board, Bird was kind of like a quirky thing of like our brand of humor. Like now it might seem more normal. Like then it was out there. We brought Sam on. I could tell he kind of saw and got that. Most people couldn't. Like at the time, I was working out of my apartment. It was just me.
And I remember texting Peter. I was like, hey, what's the address of the office? And he was like, the office? The office is my apartment. Here you go. I was like, okay. Walked every day, got there, walked in, and I was like, wow, this is an apartment.
My now wife Julia was helping out with whatever she could. I had my twin brother writing these emails with me, and Sam came on board as a summer intern.
I remember the first day, I was dressed up in these nice khakis, pleated khakis, with my button down and a vest, looking all good for my startup job.
He showed up the first day wearing this fleece sweater vest. I don't think he'd ever been to a job before, maybe as a lifeguard. Showed up in a pair of baggy khakis and was like, all right, I'm here for work. And I don't think he knew what work was. The guy didn't know, I don't think he knew how to actually operate a computer properly. But he saw, indescribably, he saw what Bird Dogs could be. Yeah. So I'm building something that I genuinely care about with people I care about. And I knew that had to be through an entrepreneurial lens in order to do that. I knew I had to start from scratch. I was young, I could take risks. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And it was actually, I had multiple friends over time who would come up to me. And they'd come up to me saying, Lululemon had an incredible product for men. It was really comfortable. They were wearing this stuff secretly, but they were afraid to show their friends they're wearing this women's brand. And at the same time, I had a lot of friends who were aware of this brand called Chubbies that had started years before us. And what Chubbies did is they started to speak to men for the first time, right? But they had a crappy product, right? Everyone who had owned Chubbies have said, yeah, it's kind of gimmicky. It's it's not a really good product. You can get that other places and so forth. And I actually had multiple people during that time period where I was deciding what to do next in my career approached me and said, you need to do the Chubbies of Lululemon. You need to do the Chubbies of Lululemon. What they meant by that was, look, there's a real opportunity in men's apparel where you can provide a much better product inside of a brand that you can do. They're like, Peter, you have a uncommon ability, you have an unfair advantage to speaking to 20-something men. You just do that better than anyone else. So it was actually other folks coming to me to say, to want to partner to do this thing or to push me in that direction. Because there were other guys who were looking to do the same thing.
say?
I actually spent months doing like a ton of thoughtful research. Right? I mean, I was like, I'm going to jump blindly. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to go and build something, but I'm not going to be dumb. And what I actually figured out was there's a huge opportunity in this space, right? The first was I realized that when you look at how consumer products were being sold to that point in time, take apparel, for example. They had all been sold through brick and mortar stores, okay? And when you sold through brick and mortar, when I looked at the data, 80% of all transactions were women swiping the credit card, right? So think about that for a second. 80% of every consumer product was purchased by a woman from then until all of history before, right? And what was happening was when I looked at the data online, it was split 50-50. Look at J. Crew. Is J. Crew a men's brand? No. J. Crew is, like, look at the images they're showing to you. Male models walking down some like stone-crushed driveway in the Hamptons. Like, I mean, like, think about it. Like, what guy is like, I want more male models in chino sweaters and khakis. Give me more of that. That's what I want to see. No one. And it was because the female was the buyer. I mean, just walk through New York City and look at men's clothing. Look at Calvin Klein underwear. You have David Beckham sitting in tighty whities on a billboard. Most guys are like, this is actually the last thing I want to see. So I realized that, and when you move online, I realized guys were actually buying for themselves for the first time. So I saw this massive opportunity, right? Pre-e-commerce, every consumer was actually a woman. The male consumer was hidden behind what the woman actually wants for the guy, right? Online, they're split 1-to-1. So people sell to women directly, people sell to men directly. And that created a huge, huge opportunity.
From like the very early point in the summer, like this motto is kind of just like repeated over and over again. It's like responsibilities earned, not given. I would go home at like 8 or 9 p.m. and I would get back and it would be like 10 p.m. I would get home and I would instantly pull open my laptop and I would start answering emails again till like the whole backlog was cleared. Didn't matter how late I had to stay up. And so like in 2 or 3 weeks, Peter was like, okay, you did customer service. Let's move you on to the next thing. And so I started like taking product pictures, like editing pictures, like uploading to the website and all this stuff. And it was just like task after task. Like if I just do one thing at a time and I crush this thing, then I'm going to get something better. And I'm going to get something like a little more fun. And it was just this incredible space to be working and learning in, because I just felt like I was just learning so much so fast, and I like within like a couple weeks I was like, I am learning so much more shit than I was at school. This is crazy. That summer started to come to a close, and I was just thrilled with how it went, and I think I left that summer with the absolute intention of coming back the following summer if I could. I went home back to New Hampshire to spend like a couple of days with my family before going off to school. And on that last morning, I had my flight back to Santa Clara at like 3 in the afternoon or something. And I checked my email and I had this email from Peter and he was like, hey, after thinking about what we did this past summer, like if you want to, like the opportunity is there for you to stay another year and we'll sure as hell get you into the business school when you go back that next time. And I remember just being like totally just overwhelmed, like just sitting in my living room with my family all around and just being like bombarded by things that they thought would help me make that decision. But there's really nothing that they could say. I mean, I was choosing between two good things, but for some reason it felt like I was making like the hardest, worst, life-changing decision ever. Felt like there was negatives to both sides instead of thinking about the pros. But I just remember in such a short amount of time altering the course of my life for, I guess, what may be forever.
You do not know where your decisions come from. They pop up like hiccups. And when you make a decision, people have a great deal of anxiety about making decisions. So when we decide, we're always worrying, did I think this over long enough? Did I take enough data into consideration? And if you think it through, you find you never could take enough data into consideration. The data for a decision in any given situation is infinite. So what you do is, you go through the motions of thinking out what you will do about this. And then when the time comes to act, you make a snap judgment.
So at the end of that couple hours, I made the decision not to go back. I was hoping that I could like pull away like a really special experience that I could bring back and continue on my life. But I think I was kind of a fool to believe that spending another year at this company, building this brand, I wouldn't just fall in love with it even more. And so when that time came around, it was it felt like it was an easier decision, even though the gravity of that decision was much, much larger. This time I was really altering the path of my life, I felt like. And I know you can always go back to school, but you can't be a 20-year-old kid in school anymore. And so I packed up my bags, went back to New York City, and it was like nothing had ever changed. It was like we dove right into the next year, and so the next outstanding issue was I didn't have a place to live. So Peter's like, "Oh, you can stay in my closet." And I was like, "The closet? Like the storage closet?" And he's like, Yeah. I was like, "Okay." So I remember like the first and second day, we like pulled all the shit out of the closet, pushed in like a mattress. It was enough space for my mattress and like a little bureau at the end, and like 3x3 patch of room where most of my dirty clothes sat. And yeah, that was my new home. It was great because I woke up in the morning and I had a heck of a commute. I swung open the door and walked down the steps, and my desk was right in front of me. Plopped down in my seat, in my boxers, sometimes started getting to work. And it was really great. I mean, I enjoyed being like just totally immersing myself in that environment. And like we would end the workday at 8 or 9 and step up into the closet, and sometimes I left the door open, sometimes it would be closed, depending on the night. But yeah, it was just a great dynamic. It was really, really fun. It was really fun. So what is it like working at Bird Dogs day to day? It's overwhelmingly genuine. And we're not a group of old guys in suits theorizing about what other people like. All the guys that work here are our customers. Like, we embody what our customer is. So like when we're here at work being ourselves and writing jokes, what makes us laugh is we hope is what makes our customers laugh. And that's like, that's it, man. I'm so like in my own world because I've never experienced what normal people experience in terms of like what a work environment traditionally is. Like, I feel like most people, they graduate college, they go into their job and everyone's always putting on a mask. Everyone's trying to be the person that they want to personify as like whatever their goals are. Like, I want to be the person that can get that raise. I want to be the person that can impress that boss. And Bird Dogs, there are none of those pressures. I'm the exact same person at work as I am when I come home at the end of the day. And that's such a liberating feeling. And it's like, it really, I think it's a core foundational part of like what makes Bird Dogs really great. Is like everyone here is best friends, you know? Like we're all, there's no facades, you know? We're all ourselves and we all like hanging out with each other. Like everyone who works at Bird Dogs is the same person that I want to go and get a drink with after work. And that's just the best feeling ever. It feels like you're hanging out with your friends all day.
Repeat the question.
Does it make me sad? I'm not sad where I am right now. I'm incredibly happy where I am right now. Does it make me sad that I feel like I skipped out on some of those like essential elements that most people like hold really dear to themselves, like personally, like that college experience or being a crazy kid in high school, blah blah blah. Yeah, I feel a little sad that I won't have that in the traditional sense, but I mean, life is a series of decisions, and you have, with every one of those decisions is positives and negatives. And I feel like I made the decisions that I thought were right at those points, and I took a gamble, you know. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I wish I had that. I still miss that. I still wish I could be in college sometimes. But that doesn't mean I would change anything, you know? I've always been kind of shooting for this ambiguous thing they call success. And I was always on that road by myself. It always felt like I'm putting on the blinds and I'm just going. And I'm gonna see where it takes me. And it is scary having that road be unforeseen. But it doesn't mean it's the wrong path just because it's scary and it's different. I think that if I keep bringing enthusiasm to each day, I can't think about 10 years yet. That's too much, you know? I gotta think about like today. And if I can be the person that I want to be each day, then, I mean, I guess you could say that's the power of compounding interest, you know? 1 penny doubled every day. Man, that's a lot of pennies.